Just go real quick on guys that are out, back, game time decisions, and then talk a little bit about Oklahoma State. Guys that are out, Cameron Valdez, got him back last week, was having a great week, and ended up pulling his hamstring, so he's going to be out. He's feeling better. Hopefully we'll be able to get him back after the bye week or practice him during the bye week. Miles Price will be a game time decision, rolled his ankle on a screen. We lost him for most of the second half Saturday, but he was in this morning getting treatment and, see what Drew can do with him. A guy that we will get back that's going to help us a lot is Adrian Fry. He's been out, for the last few games. It's going to be big to get his leadership back and planning on, playing a lot more on defense than special teams. Those are the main guys. Playing number 7 team in the country on the road, really exciting. It's going to be a sellout, great atmosphere. Played there multiple times, really loud. Fans with the paddles and everything. It's a really good college atmosphere. They're a really good football team. And if you think about Coach Gundy, he's the guy that's we're around the same age, but he's kind of the old guy in the conference. What he's been able to do year in and year out is pretty incredible when you're talking about college football, and especially this day and time of just continually having success. So he's done an amazing job. It's going to be really a tough challenge for our defense, especially after this last week. We're facing another dual threat quarterback. Spencer does a great job with his arm, but he can also beat you with his feet. So we've got to do a better job of containing the quarterback. A little bit different of quarterback run game, but still can hurt you every bit as fast and as athletic as the guy that we just got to playing. Coach Mason's the new defense coordinator. Really a great guy. We played his team in 2018 in the Texas Bowl whenever he was at Vandy. He was the head coach whenever a couple of my guys went to Vandy, and so I have some experience with him. Just a great guy. And we're going to face one of the toughest defensive fronts, I think, in the country. Those guys last year were probably the best defense between them and Baylor, one of the best defenses definitely in the Big 12, but they've come out and they've played really good this last weekend. Kind of changed up a little bit, going more to the things that he did at Vandy with more of a 4-down front, which is tough whenever you have the depth that they have in the defensive line. So it's going to be a challenge. We're excited about it. It gives us another chance. I think this is 5 weeks in a row that we've faced a ranked team. So it's definitely helping us grow up as a football team and a football program, and our guys will be ready to play that game. One of the big things that we talked about yesterday when we were talking about this game is we have to do a better job. I don't believe in starting fast. You hear a lot of that. I think that's a lot of coach speak of starting fast. I don't know any team that wants to start slow, so I don't know why you would ever say, hey, let's go start fast. I think we just have to be better on the road starting. I don't know if it was 13-0 or 20-0 against North Carolina State before we really got going. I know it's 13-0 Saturday before we got going, and this is a team that we can't do that. So we've got to do a better job of playing the football that we're playing in the second quarter and the first quarter. The football we're playing in the start of the third quarter in the first quarter. And that's just a challenge for us. Starts with me as the head coach of figuring that out and being better on the road. We've kind of been two different teams in Lubbock and then on the road, and we got to be the same team. Just go out, give us the best chance to win the football game. With that, I will open up with any questions.
Start with Sean. Y'all can help us out, keep it to 1 or 2 so we get through everyone.
Coach, 40% of the games are in the books. After looking at the last game and the season as a whole, has this team exceeded expectations, met expectations, below expectations, and which group has shown the greatest growth?
That's a good question. My expectation is to be undefeated. I expect to win every game. So we're not undefeated, and we haven't played well on the road. So that's something that I have to correct. I think as far as guys or units that are playing well. I'm going to start with the guys like Jalen. He's playing really well up front in the defensive line. I've been so proud of him. He's been such a leader, and Tyree is playing really well. Those guys up front have, I think we're better and deeper than I think a lot of people thought whenever we were coming in to the season. I think from game one to where we're at now, we're playing better at the corner position. It would definitely help getting Adrian back because that gives us more depth and a guy that's played a lot of football. The other group that I think are exceeding expectations is a very young wide receiver group. And it's been if something happens to somebody, the next guy up. I mean, Nehemiah, has played great. Miles goes down the other day and Xavier White steps in and, until after the game, I didn't realize how many catches and how many yards he actually had. It's just kind of who's been out there. Trey Cleveland has really come on the last 2 games. So I think those guys, are guys that are groups that are exceeding expectations and continually getting better.
Coach, you mentioned it before, the amount of times you guys have played top 25 teams so far back to back to back like this. What has that done to build your team so far, and what do you think you guys are going to walk away from, I guess, after all these ranked teams in a row, hopefully going to go forward?
Just the expectations of playing good football, and it's not just this year. It's like, this is – I always talk to our guys about this is a big game because we're in it. That's why it's a big game. And so – I think this is showing our guys that we have the opportunity to win every single week. That we're playing some really tough teams. The thing that I think everybody's seeing quickly about the Big 12 that's different from a lot of conferences is there's no off week. I don't know in the next couple of weeks who will be ranked after we play Oklahoma State. I just know it doesn't get any easier. And we're playing really, really good football teams. You can see it with Kansas. You can see it with TCU. Iowa State, the last 2 games they've played, they're right there. They could be 2-0 in this conference. And so I think it says a lot about the Big 12 and really, how good this conference is from top to bottom.
And obviously, you guys want to come out of the gates hot in this game and going forward. How do you work on that? Is it something you do at practice? Is it maybe a certain sequence of plays that you plan on running going into that game to make sure that you guys come out with some big-time plays? Is it something that you can work on, or is it something that you just have to wait and see on game day?
No, I think we can do some stuff in practice to maybe sudden change, of when we're doing our 2-minute drill. Could be right in the middle of Indy. The 2 coaches I work for at Baylor both did that. Yeah, that's the thing. It's been really strange. I've been doing this for a long time and trying to put my finger on it because I don't feel like the crowd at either place affected us. I didn't see our guys with big eyes. I've been on teams where we walk in the stadium and, you see their eyes get really big and you're like, oh, I was a part of that in 2018 going to West Virginia. And, we were kind of you could feel like, oh, we better start. This game needs to start the right way, and it didn't. And I haven't felt that. I haven't felt that at all. I don't think our guys are overwhelmed by anything. Just for whatever reason, we're not executing. Because if you look, even at both times, the first quarter and the second quarter, it's like there's 2 different football teams playing. And we got to talk about it. And not put any little catchphrase in front of it. Just talk about being better. When we start the game. And a little bit of it, too, is, we talked today about making sure at the start of the game that we're calling stuff that we have our most reps in. So many times you go into a game and you've got this game plan and then all of a sudden they do something different and, you've been working all week versus just, hey, let's just go do what we do early. We talked about that a little bit. I don't know if that's what we will do, but that's just stuff that we're searching to find to start better, on the road, because at home it's been just the opposite. We've gone down bang, bang, bang and been in the end zone. And I think all 3 of the games. So it's something that we got to grow up as a team on the road.
Hey, Coach, I have a couple questions about the quarterback position. What's your evaluation of Donovan Smith so far this year? And then Coach Kitley said at one point Barron was getting half the first team reps a couple weeks ago. Is that still the case? How has he looked? And then has there been any thought in terms of Barron possibly getting more snaps or maybe even the start?
It's something that we talk about constantly. I've been proud of Donovan. I mean, I think he's leading the Big 12 in passing. He's given us a chance to be in a lot of games. He's a big guy that will step up and make some courageous throws. He's getting a lot of criticism, by a lot of different people. And the thing that I told the team yesterday is let's go back and let's look at that and who should have some of that criticism along with Donovan, and it's going to start with me. And Kitley's going to be the first one to tell you it's going to start with him, with protecting him with different play calls. But, the first interception, he gets hit on the arm as he's throwing it. He didn't hit himself, and so the criticism lies with him being clean in the pocket. And that goes with play calls. That goes with the offensive line, all that. So I've been really proud of Donovan. I've been proud of his response, and that doesn't mean that we don't come out and this is the first game that we've played this year that he's played the entire game, and there hadn't been another quarterback that's played. And so we'll see how the week goes as far as how comfortable we are. It's one of the deals of some of the stuff that you are dealing with, what you're dealing with, and some of the stuff is unknown, and are we ready to kind of search that unknown yet to make those changes? I'm trying to think of the right words to say on that. But, I think Barron will come out and have a great week, and, I'm hoping that we have a good plan to play both of them. But I think the tough thing, I talked to Donovan Saturday night, gave him a call, and, because he's down, man. That kid wants to win, and he's a great kid. He's got very high character. I told him, I said, there's no position that will get more praise unwarranted than the quarterback position and the head coach position, and there will be no position that gets more criticism unwarranted than the starting quarterback. And that's just the nature of the beast. You chose to play quarterback, and you're a really good one. And I think he's going to be a guy that plays on Sundays, and so you just got to learn it now, and you got to find ways to get better. And we got to find ways to be better as a program to help him be better. And then if Barron's in there, we got to do the same thing with Barron.
And speaking of keeping a clean pocket, I know he's faced a lot of really good pass rushers, but Caleb Rogers, a left tackle, has given up a lot of sacks.
Yeah.
And he's been one of the guys who was kind of named as a starter way back in the offseason. Is there somebody pushing him at left tackle, and has there been some thought of maybe changing up the offensive line or not?
Yeah, we are. We bumped Ty Buchanan over to left tackle to back him up, and we'll kind of see how those two go. It's going to be a little bit strange for Ty. He's never played left tackle, but he's really athletic, and he was a guy that we thought we'd push Monroe for playing time. Monroe's played better and practiced better, so he's a guy that's been starting. But we're moving him over to kind of see how he looks, and some of it is making sure that 91 is going to play in the NFL. And we've got to do a good job, whether it's we're sliding to him. You turn around this week, man, they got 5 or 6 guys that can flat out rush the passer. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. We turn around and you go to West Virginia, they got a guy, probably multiple guys, but I know they got one guy that's been there a long time that's disrupted. Then we play Baylor, and they've got 4 or 5 guys that are going to play in the NFL. I mean, you say whatever you want about different conferences that are really good. I just know that the Big 12 is as good as any conference. I mean, again, there's a lot of people that hang their hat on 1 or 2 teams in other conferences, and then you see at the end of the year in bowl games and non-conference games that the Big 12 can hold their own with anybody.
Coach, from spring practices to fall camp, now heading into week 6, you mentioned, what you've seen out of your guys, but specifically, what's something that you've learned yourself maybe through this journey through the past 6 weeks?
I just really try to concentrate on keeping the main thing, and continually try to make it simple. If this is the message, this is what we're going to do. I think so many coaches, knee-jerk and come up with all these little phrases every single week, and then the players are like, what is it, Coach? Are we going to start fast, or is it to get it to the fourth quarter, or is it – so what we try to do is just keep this is who we are and keep building that program, and not making excuses that this is year one. I mean, me saying that sounds like that, but not, man. My job is to try to find a way to win games. My job is to try to find a way to be better in the offensive line. My job is to find a way to protect, Donovan better and find a way to run the football better. And this is they're coming out and they're practicing every week. They're practicing extremely hard. And I said it yesterday. I mean, it's funny what a difference a week makes. I said everybody, you walked around the campus all week long and everybody patted you on the back, and now you're going to brace a lot of hate for getting beat by a really good football team in K-State at their place. And so it's just a mixture of us all learning that that's just the nature of what we do, and really just concentrating on the people in the room and us getting better as a group and representing Texas Tech.
Xavier coming in and stepping in for you guys. How special of a player, and what does he really add to y'all's offense?
Well, it's one of those deals. I mean, I probably can understand why he was playing different positions, but like the thing with him getting back to who he is, he's a slot receiver. I mean, the day that I met him and we sit down and talked one-on-one, we talked about him playing slot receiver and not running back. And I think whenever you're sitting there and you have a guy that just gets more and more comfortable in a position and understands that position better and better, you start seeing those outcomes. And I was really proud of the way he came in. And you go back and he had a really good kickoff return on our first kickoff return. The second one, if we just stay inside out. I think it was the same, maybe the third one, whichever one it was. But it was his second return. I mean, that's fixed to be a big return. And so he brings a lot. And then he turns around and, Miles goes out and he's our punt returner, and he'll return punts this week. So he's just a guy that's kind of a Swiss Army knife. We got a couple guys like that. He and Nehemiah both are a lot like that. And then they practice extremely hard. Kind of like Trey Cleveland, like what Trey Cleveland's done the last couple of weeks. Man, we haven't rewarded Trey Cleveland. He makes two of the biggest catches that I've seen, one against Texas and one against K-State, and we come away with no points on both of those drives. The next play is a negative play, and it's frustrating. I mean, you think about that game, as bad as it was. It's in the fourth quarter. It's 20-20, and we have the ball 1st and 10 on the 16-yard line and come away with no points. So those guys, if you saw our practice numbers, like if I could give y'all our GPS numbers, then you see why these guys are playing so well, because that's the way they practice. They're some of our hardest guys in practice. I mean, Drew and Lance and those guys, they're the ones that say, hey, Coach, this guy might need to slow down on Fast Friday, or this guy might need to back off just because of the amount of high-velocity yardage they're covering every single day.
Talked after the game a little bit. I'm sorry. Coach, you talked after the game a little bit about running more in the beginning of the game. Can you walk us through the game plan and how that's kind of constructed and all the hands that goes through before you finally get the final press on it?
No, it starts. Kitley starts today at 4 a.m. His Monday starts at 4 a.m. and he starts picking apart different things. Because Sunday's really concentrating on. It's still that 24-hour rule, so we're really concentrating on the opponent we just played, and we want to leave the building putting those guys behind us and starting everything on Monday. And so he starts, whenever we have a staff meeting at 9, and after that, all the offensive staff get together, and they start just kind of talking general game plan. And then you'll have Hamby and Kitley and Kenny and Cochran in a room together, start talking about run game and just kind of building it from there. The reason I said about running the ball after the game a little bit is because, even if you look, and I know like this is every offense, so me making this statement, of course, nobody wants to be in 2nd and 12, right? But if you look at us at 2nd and 12 versus 2nd and 8, there's only 4 yards difference, but our 2nd and 10 and 2nd and 8, and our success on those drives, I don't know what it is. It's probably something that I need to look at, but it's such a huge difference. And, even if it's 2 yards in the run game, I think after the second drive, we started running the ball, and Sir Roderick kind of got in a groove and had a couple of good runs. And, after the game, Kitley says, man, I probably should have started off with a few more runs. And that's hindsight. Maybe that second drive we hit a couple more runs. But it's just one of those deals. Also, in the nature of offense that we're in, you're going to get some runs called that they don't give you the box. You're going to check out of them, and now you got to execute, throwing the ball and throwing your RPO and catch the ball and protecting the quarterback.
Coach, your tight ends have kind of been feast or famine when it comes to production. There's 100 different reasons on why that could be, whether it comes to play calling or a quarterback not looking for him or just coverage. What do you attribute that to from last 2 weeks ago to this week and that big drop from at that position?
I think a little bit is getting down and trying to have throw the ball a little bit more and more of a spread, getting more speed on the field. And then, sometimes it happens to where you run a play and we don't have the same intensity and tenacity that we had the week before. And then you're like, okay, we're going away from this. We had some of that, to where we're going to go to them. And it wasn't there. I thought Mason was pretty consistent again this week. I think the one thing he's really, really growing, and so – They're gonna be challenged because I think they can affect this game, but they'll be challenged this week as far as how much you want to be a part of the game plan is not during the week because they're practicing hard, but during the game. How hard are you going to strain? Because there's some things that they know that they didn't strain the way they did the week before to get open, to get the ball to them.
And you mentioned another running quarterback, dual threat quarterback from Oklahoma State. What else about this offense is going to give Tim DeRuyter some fits this week? Well,
it really is a typical Casey Dunn does a great job as their offense coordinator, and he's been there forever. But it's an Oklahoma State offense that, they're big RPO, their zone read. They're going to, have the zone read with a tight end coming around to where Spencer's going to pull it, and he's going to have him as his lead blocker. They get the ball out fast on the perimeter. They always, have couple really good receivers for deep threats. And so they're a very balanced offense, and they can score in a hurry. We're going to have to – we face it, during the week whenever we go good on good, but we're going to face some tempo, more tempo than we faced in any other game. And so that – having a good plan of that right there is going to be really big, and going back, they're different, but us fitting quarterback power, which we did not fit. And that was the big plays by K-State that even though Oklahoma State doesn't run it, they have it in their run game. We better make sure that we've corrected that, because there's a lot of times that you get the copycat play of the week, and so we want to make sure we're fitting that up.
Coach, we didn't see a whole lot of Jerron Bradley this week. Is there anything to that, maybe being passed by these guys, or it's still by committee? No,
he hadn't been passed. It's like, just who was hot, man. Trey played really well, and so it's one thing that we continually talk about. I think I even talked about it last week or maybe even 2 weeks ago, like Bradley had X amount of reps, and to keep him fresh, we should split them. You probably can go back and look at that game too, and just our rotation, because I think, even with the tight end, so you can add the tight ends in there. I look up, like I said, kind of with X, like until Don said something about it after the game, I really didn't know he had that many catches, because I don't really look out there. Like, I feel like whoever we put on the field in those positions, I mean, of course, you've got some guys that have more experience like Miles, but whoever's out there, I expect them to make plays, and whether it's Brady Boyd, I mean, he's stepped up the last couple of weeks and had some really big first down plays, but it's really like we have two deep, in our receiver position and 2 to 3 deep in the tight end position, and, it's kind of whoever's out there. And then I think sometimes just the nature of it is somebody gets hot and they get out there and play a little bit more.
That I believe it was only 4 snaps for Henry Teeter on Saturday. Were you trying to be careful with him on the injury, or was there anything like that?
No. Just I think it's the growth of Mason more than anything, and he will continue, and then we'll see who has the better week out of all of them. Like I said, I mean, there are 4 guys that are really good, and we didn't play as much 12 personnel as what we did, the week before. Even though the week before, whenever it was 12 personnel, we still were spread out a lot with them. And it's just kind of going into this game plan this week to see how much we'll play.
Joey, on the quarterbacks for a second, what's the latest on Tyler?
He threw yesterday and today. I still think, hopeful for West Virginia. We'll see. What we'll do is he'll throw all week this week, meet with the doctor, see how he feels, and then see if he's far enough along to practice for West Virginia. If not, then, I think it'd be Baylor. It's just one of those deals of, how he feels throwing the ball, and he looked good yesterday. He's out there. He wasn't with any receivers, just throwing with the trainers and different student guys, but looked good.
Last year, toward the end of the season, he got cleared.
Yep.
But then never returned. Once it comes about that he is cleared again, and trainers say he's full go, all full football activity, how much time then do you think he needs between that point and to get into games, given his age and experience level?
I don't think it will take a lot, because the biggest thing right now is nothing but his throwing motion, the 2 things. One, is it safe to put him in the game with his shoulder, and 2, his throwing motion. Once he feels good about that, then I think when the doctors release him, you put him in practice and let him go. And, again, whenever it gets to that point, you're also going to say, okay, at what point, who gives us the best at that point? I know he won the job, but who gives us the best chance to win that week, and then hopefully we get all 3 of them, then we can do some things that we planned on doing at the first of the year.
Back on Trey Cleveland for a moment. With him being a fast guy and the way he's built, how is he similar to or different from Tyquan Thornton that you watched for the last 5 years?
Well, Tyquan's we're talking a little bit different, honestly, a little bit different speed. Like Tyquan Thornton ran a 46 in the quarter in the high school. So you're talking about I don't know if we have anybody that's a 4.2, maybe Chad, maybe he goes out and runs a 4.28 in the in the combine. So, but as far as the 2 guys, I think Trey is a little bit more physical. I think both of them have really good hands. They track the ball extremely well. Like if you're going to compare them, both of those guys, and I think you've seen it the last 2 weeks on the plays that he's made. Tracking the ball. Elite receivers can track the ball and put their body in position to catch balls like he did. And so very similar whenever it comes to that. That's a good comparison from the standpoint they both have things that they've had to work on to make themselves better receivers. But Trey is definitely a little bit bigger guy stature-wise. When you look at Tyquan, he's a skinny guy.
And you mentioned after the game Saturday, you said Miles, you hoped it was not a high ankle. Yeah. Did you determine was it or was it not?
Right now, it's the tough thing is it's an ankle. they haven't really – the biggest thing was there was no fracture. We were really worried the way when you see him, he gets rolled up on a screen play. Luckily, his foot came out a little bit quicker to where it didn't have any break. With him, it's going to be a little bit like Weston, when Weston recovered. It's going to be a little bit different with the receiver. Can he cut on it? Can he plant? Can he hit, high speed? If not, it's probably good that we're butting up against a bye week, and so if he does miss a game, I think it's just only going to be one. But the one thing about Miles, man, he's a tough guy. I mean, he's one of the toughest guys on this team. He's one of the toughest guys I've coached. And so if he can go, he'll go.
You mentioned you were talking about environments a moment ago. What's your experience being up at Boone Pickens with the tight sideline and everything?
Well, somebody told me they actually expanded it 6 feet, so I'm kind of anxious to see if that's true. I don't know if it is or not. I hadn't even looked, but it's pretty incredible. I loved playing last week because it was such a great atmosphere. This atmosphere is you get the paddles involved, so you get that loud banging on that visitor's sideline, and it's a closed-in stadium, so it's really a loud stadium. I was trying to think of, they beat us pretty good, I think there in 17, and then we beat them in 19 there, and then I was still, at Baylor whenever we got beat in a really good game last year. So it's a great atmosphere, great fans, and it's going to number 7 team in the country, man. It's fun to go play against guys like that. All right, thank y'all.
Hey, Coach. Coach McGuire touched on it, but how is it different in terms of preparing for a quarterback who could run in the power QB run as opposed to a straight drop back and kind of squirting out?
Well, I mean, you're talking about last week in particular.
Oklahoma State with Spencer Sanders.
Yeah. Well, last week with what Kansas State does, they're going to make you fit things, and it's the same issue you get with Wildcat. You can be short numbers-wise, and they create an extra blocker by having the quarterback run the ball. We didn't fit some things well, and then once he got to the second level, we did a poor job of getting him down and tackling. This week, the challenge is going to be similar in that there's a mobile quarterback, but the difference is the type of attack. They're going to get him a little bit more on the edge with some speed options, some read options, some loaded option. So it's different, but it's still the same thing. You have to account for the quarterback, which you can be light in the box at times, and they'll take advantage of it.
And then in terms of him as a scrambler, not necessarily as a design run, but when he drops back, do you believe philosophically in using spies at times or not, and like a spy for him?
For someone like him, you definitely got to consider it. He's a guy that makes a ton of big plays with his legs. We have some certain packages where we'll do that, but he's also an excellent quarterback. So you got to teach your guys in your 4-man pressures how to keep him in the pocket and make him throw the ball, because he's probably more dangerous, getting out, looking down the field and still getting the ball to people or getting a first down with his legs.
Yeah, kind of bouncing off Jared's points right there. It seems like every week this year you guys have played a scrambling quarterback. When you game plan for those types of guys, obviously each one brings something unique to the table. Does the basic concept stay the same, especially when you keep doing it back to back to back like that?
It can, but again, there's nuances, as I just mentioned, between Kansas State's attack and Oklahoma State's attack. Both those quarterbacks, however, when they are in a third and pass situation, are guys that you better, not to get into a whole lot of the detail, better have guys with eyes on the quarterback, which makes it difficult to play some of your man match stuff because you'll have guys running down the field, and if he breaks through the four-man rush, there's a lot of space in there. So those kind of things you've got to be aware of, and because of the ever since, gosh, I can't remember the last time we played someone that didn't run real well. You've got to have that in your plan, and you've got to drill it with your guys. Obviously, we didn't do it effectively enough last week, but it's something we're going to work on every week because it seems like we're getting these mobile guys every week.
Game for Tyree this past Saturday. Seems like we're saying that every single week so far. How have you seen his week-to-week growth continue this whole season, and where do you think Tyree? Yeah, as he continues to grow.
I think it's not surprising to me. We think he's one of the best defensive players in our conference. We knew that, but with him being down a little bit in the summertime, getting over the injury, not really playing live reps for the first couple weeks of camp, he was a little behind as far as just his game conditioning. And I think as he's getting into games, he's getting better and better. We know he can, really set edges and do a great job in rushing speed to power. And I think he's getting more comfortable in the things we're asking him to do. And we need that from him because he can be a real presence that if they have one guy blocking him, he can affect a game, I believe.
Coach, you kind of mentioned it with Tyree, but what's allowed Jalen to kind of be so successful the last several weeks in terms of just his pass rushing ability and just being able to get into the backfield so far?
Tyree or?
For Jalen Hutchins.
For J-Book. He's a guy that's just really got a great motor. He's got some quick twitch, but really some of his sacks have been just perseverance. He's getting doubled and he's pushing and he's turning and he's just finding ways to get to the quarterback. And I just love the motor with which he plays, and out of sheer determination is where he's making some plays.
Almost like a no-duh situation, but in terms of what Tyree's been able to do, have you seen that affect the rest of the line to where it's helped them either get those one-on-ones and they've been able to win those battles too?
Well, I'm a little surprised. You would think a little bit that they would, slide protections more to him or double him more, but we're moving, doing a decent job of moving him around a little bit in anticipation of that. We haven't noticed people, making a clear plan just yet, and I think the more he plays, that may warrant it.
Coach had mentioned Adrian Fry is going to come back. I guess how does that change things philosophically for y'all? Or Adrian Fry, he's coming back from injury. I guess how does that change things, or how does that help you all just in terms of either adding him depth-wise or just kind of sliding him in back where he was?
Well, I thought, Adrian had a really good fall camp and, was really playing well until he got dinged up there in the second game. He'll be right back in the mix, which obviously going to add to our depth. I thought that at times Malik had played pretty well, and there were some things last week we had to work on with him and Rashad both. But having an extra guy, and then we're going to get Kobe, some more reps because when he's been pretty good as well.
Coach, this is y'all's 5th straight week playing a top 25 team. To you on defense specifically, how has that really built, character and toughness facing such hard opponents like that and ranked?
You play college football for the challenge, and I think our guys know every week in this conference in particular that we're going to be facing great offenses, great programs, and so it gets you up early in the morning. It makes you go to that weight room and lift. It makes you come in and watch extra film because if you don't, you're going to get embarrassed. And to have those opportunities every week, it's exciting. I think as a coach, I know it is, and I think for our players is as well. Someone's got a number in front of their name, gives you that much more reason to fight your tail off to go get a win.
Coach McGuire earlier mentioned that there's no off days in the Big 12. When you look at the Big 12 all around from top to bottom, to you, how crazy is it that anybody could beat anybody at this point?
I think it's college football today. You know, you look at the effect of the transfer portal and the teams who've been able to manage that well. You can transform teams. And I think there's some really, really good football coaches in our league. Some like Coach Gundy that have been doing a long, long time and have established programs. And, you know, guys like Coach Dykes, you know, at TCU having a heck of a year, has done it at, you know, other programs. You know, there's no status quo that says, you know, if you're a traditional power, you're always going to win. And if you're traditionally not so good, you're not going to win. You know, you look at Kansas, you know, their coaching staff's done a great job. You know, I've only seen some highlights and stuff, but obviously they've you know, got the college football world, you know, a buzz about them. So we don't worry about our opponent other than, you know, we know who they are. We know what their tendencies are, those types of things. The fact they have a number may motivate you a little bit more, but it's really about how well we play or don't play on Saturday.
Coach, K-State went up, 13-0 pretty early, and then you strung together some pretty good defensive drives. What does that say about your defense's ability to respond?
Well, it's something we preach all the time about ignoring the scoreboard, about it doesn't matter where that ball starts. Our job's to put the fire out if it starts on our end of the field, and, let's go play ball, and we got an opportunity to seize the momentum back. I think after the first couple series, our guys settled in a little bit. We started fitting things much better. And when you get that momentum, it feeds on itself. And I thought our guys did a pretty good job with that. We misfit a power play, and it was a good adjustment by Kansas State to go to that. We should have fit it better than we did, and we didn't. And it's something we've got to work on.
That fourth quarter, I guess, was pretty detrimental, I think, to the outcome of the game. What is it going to take to kind of string together a full 60 minutes?
Well, I think every football program strives to do that. It's hard. They practice too. They've got scholarships too. If we're dominating someone for 4 quarters, it's usually an outmatched opponent. But when it's an even matchup, which most of our league is going to be, there's going to be momentum shifts during a game, and you've got to weather those momentums. Like at the beginning of last Saturday's game, we weathered it. We came back. We ended up tying the ball game up. I mean, we got a chance to go up in the fourth quarter after being down and kind of dominated in the first couple of minutes. So it shows the resilience of our guys. They believe in what we do, and that if we'll just stay in the fight, we just got to find a way to keep making plays.
Coach, Jacob Rodriguez got his name called quite a bit on Saturday. What's his growth been like in practice, and just kind of talk about his development?
Yeah, we think Jacob's got a really high ceiling, and he's a guy that hadn't played a lot of defense prior to being here. So a lot of it, particularly at the inside linebacker position, it's new. And so with more reps, he's putting a lot of work in, not just on the field at practice. But we've got a virtual reality system that has a camera behind the linebackers that when they're done at practice, they can put these VR goggles on and mentally get those reps over and over and over. So you're seeing blocking schemes and where to fit. And he's willing to put that extra work in. So I think that's really helped. And he's got a lot of natural ability, and it's just putting all that ability together with the feel of playing linebacker and understanding what we're asking him to do. I think his future is really bright, and I know he's going to keep working. We just got to keep working with him and give him more and more opportunities.
And it kind of came down to like 6 or 7 explosive plays on their end, it felt like. But otherwise, you were able to contain Deucevan Adrian Martinez pretty well this weekend. Do you think it was just a misfit or a blown coverage maybe in those situations?
Yeah. I mean, clearly we misfit a couple and missed tackles. 3 of those plays were for 195 yards. They ran for 340. We held them to 100 and whatever yards throwing the ball. And every play counts, as I reminded our guys yesterday. You can't just throw those plays out. What you got to do is you got to fit them. And they're going to make some guys miss at times. Or, Deuce Vaughn's an excellent back, and, Martinez is a really good running quarterback. But you've got to get those guys down. You've got to strain to get off your block. You've got to fit like we fit in practice. And when you don't, against, good players like that, bad things happen. But I also think, showing our guys the film, they realize that we did play really well at times. We've got to be more consistent. And it just gives you that much more drive to get it fixed this week in practice.
Curiosity during practices, who've been the scout team players that have kind of mimicked some of these running quarterbacks or some of the running backs the last couple of weeks, just out of curiosity?
We've got a couple of scout team quarterbacks. I don't know if we can talk about them, Coop and Jaden, but and they do a fine job for us. But I don't know that there's a scout team quarterback anywhere in the country that looks like Adrian Martinez. If he would, he'd be playing for somebody right now. So it's hard. And we've had some really good running backs, some young running backs that I think are going to be really good players for us. But Deuce Vaughn, you just can't, emulate that guy. He's unique. Bijan Robinson, if we had one that looked like him, he'd be playing for us. He wouldn't be on the scout team field. So, that's the problem you get.
Anything else for Coach DeRitter before we let him go?
All right, guys, thanks.
Coach McGuire earlier mentioned that after Saturday's loss, he called Donovan himself and, just kind of talked to him because he said being a quarterback and also being a head coach, the criticism, that's who they hit first. So I'm just curious from your standpoint, what advice have you given him as he's been, developing and growing through every single week?
Yeah, just stay positive, keep your head up. Coach McGuire said that since I got hired. No one's going to take more criticism than him and the quarterback, no matter where you're at, win or lose. Same thing. Probably the week before against Texas, he probably had 1 million people patting him on the back. It's just kind of how it goes. He's every week you're going to have stuff you got to fix. He's a competitor and he loves to win, and he put a lot of that on him. And when you go back and you really watch the film, it wasn't all on him. It was on everybody. It starts with me offensively. But he's doing a really good job. We got the areas we got to clean up as always, but there's some stuff that to the fan and watching on TV, you may think, oh, that's just the quarterback making a mistake when they don't see the other 10 people on the field. That there are areas that we really got to clean up to help him as well.
We'll go next to Jeff, followed by Mason.
Coach, what have you seen as the difference in Donovan in the games where he doesn't turn the ball over, and then in the games where he's got the 3 turnovers?
Yeah, he just seemed like, against Texas, he seemed to make a little bit quicker decisions. And also just schematically how they play defense, the picture's clear. It is. You're facing a Kansas State defense this last week that dropped 8 a whole lot. And again, I told you guys, it's going to look like, hey, there's only 5 guys in the box. There's a lot of really good run plays that we had, and we were just kind of on to that middle safety guy where we got to make him miss. You make that guy miss, you're busting a 30, 40-yard run, and unfortunately we kind of never got that done. We had one, we kind of slid out. So Roderick kind of slid out to their sideline for a big run. But just making quicker decisions, and again, that starts with me. I got to try to clear up the picture for him as much as I can, and I don't think I did a very good job of that last week. We felt like we had a good game plan, but when you go back and you look at it, there were some things that I probably could have cleaned up for him, and so that's what we're going to try to get back to this week.
And your tight end group seems to be production-wise very much feast or famine when it comes to production. There's a lot of different possible reasons for that. What do you attribute the success that you had against Texas and then the lack of success against Kansas State with your tight end group?
Yeah, I just think when you go back and look at it, there's a lot of passing concepts and stuff that they were in, and they were just covered up, and we moved through the progression and just got the ball to other people. Again, you're going to see those guys play a lot of ball. We got later in the game, we got to more 10 personnel just because we were trying to get more speed on the field because we knew we had to get to the lined up to the ball and gain chunk yardage in the passing game. Just felt like when we do that, 10 personnel is probably our better bet. But again, you go back and you watch it, you're going to see our guys running routes, and unfortunately the ball just didn't go to those guys. So, against Texas, again, we had some certain concepts that they just were open on and other guys were covered, and so the quarterback made through the progression, and there it was. So that's probably what you're seeing a little bit more of. And again, those guys are going to be involved heavily this week too. We'll see how many times the ball gets thrown their way or not.
Oklahoma State has a really good defensive line, but what else about their defense just jumps out off the page?
Yeah, veteran group again. You look at their depth chart. They got all 4 defensive linemen are all redshirt seniors. So you're talking 23-year-olds up front. All 4 of those starters, 6 are seniors, 5 are juniors. So another veteran group that's played a lot of football together, a lot of continuity. I know they got a new defensive coordinator, but I mean, Coach Mason was the head coach in the SEC, so he knows what he's doing too. So they just play really well together. You can tell they're all in sync. They know they're on the same page. Coach very well, blue collar kind of bunch of guys that fly around and make plays.
Coach, it seems like Coach McGuire said the big thing with the road losses was not being able to come out of the gates hot. Is there something that you hope to maybe see out of the offense this week, or maybe even yourself, to make sure that you guys can come out a little bit faster than you did against K-State and NC State?
Yeah, I think when you go back and you look, I felt good about it. The first play, 9 yards, got a first down on second run. Came out, we just unfortunately we kind of had an MA on the perimeter and a block that's an everyday block for our guys that we just missed. So now you're in second down and you get into second long, so you go with the pass concept and we get sacked. Thought there may have been a missed call on that one that would have given us a big time first down there. But then again, you're sacked, so now you're in 3rd and 17, and we've been in that scenario too many times at the end of the day. So we just got to stay ahead of the chains. If we can stay ahead of the sticks early on, and I'm talking get 2 yards on first down, 3 yards on first down, to the average person, that may not seem like a lot, but 2nd and 7 versus 2nd and 12 is a huge difference for a play caller and for the confidence of your guys going into it. So we just got to stick to what we're doing and try not to go backwards.
Coach also mentioned that your guys' receiving team has been able to really, it seems like every week you guys have a different receiver that's having a big game. Why do you think that is, I guess, from a play calling standpoint? And do you think that's probably going to continue, especially now with Miles maybe even being game time decision?
Yeah, again, we hit on it last week some. Coach Jones does a phenomenal job with those guys, and we're deep at wide receiver. We're rotating guys. We feel so deep, and we feel like that those guys are all very good players that week to week, you may see somebody hop in that wasn't there the week before because they just out-practiced the guy in front of them. And it's not that person didn't practice well, it's just this other guy had a great week of practice. Trey Cleveland a few weeks ago was in the 2 deep but didn't start, and then now you've seen Trey Cleveland the last 2 weeks make some huge plays for us. And again, Miles went down with the ankle, and here comes X White. Next thing you know, I don't know his stats. I know he had some big numbers and the touchdown and 2 huge catches down the stretch there up the seam. And we're just deep there, and we got a lot of confidence in those guys, and we feel like with any of those guys running out there, we're going to be able to have success outside.
Jarrett and Chuck. Hey, Coach, you talked about Donovan earlier, but with Baron Morton, what has his progression been like so far this year? What kind of reps is he getting, and then also, what is he doing well, and what does he need to continue to work on?
Yeah, we're still, there a couple weeks ago, we split their reps about 50-50 this last week. Again, after Texas, I thought Donovan had a really good performance and really stepped up his game, so we cut Barron's reps back just a little bit. But those are the only 2 guys getting any of the reps at all moving forward. So both those guys are getting plenty of reps. Barron's still a young guy and still just learning. His biggest thing that we talk about is just the operation of the offense, the little things, where to signal, what O-line code. But again, Barron's very, very talented, as everybody knows, and it's just he's waiting his time, and if something happens or whatever, I don't have any hesitation throwing Baron Morton out there, and he just got to continue to get better, and he is every week, and again, I'm still just trying to develop him into the mental mindset more than the physical traits moving right now.
And the offensive line obviously had a great week against Texas last week, tougher. Coming up against Oklahoma State, it doesn't get any easier. Coach McGuire mentioned that maybe Ty Buchanan's getting a look at left tackle. How is that shaping up in terms of the whole offensive line and getting the best 5 out there?
Yeah, we got to just create a little bit of competition over there, but before all that, it starts with me. I've got to help put our guys in better situations moving forward. Try not to put those guys on islands as much, whether it's max protection or full sliding or chipping some with the running backs and some of those things. And we've done that all year. We did that against Kansas State as well. But we got to overall. We just got to keep gelling there. Again, you're just a young unit up front, and Ty Buchanan hadn't played a whole lot of snaps this year either. So we're going to get him over there and see what he can do to and see kind of how he goes with practice this week. Caleb's going to run out there at the ones tomorrow morning. We go to practice with Ty behind him, and we're going to kind of just see how that competition goes throughout the week, though.
Coach, when you kind of look at K-State and then you look at Oklahoma State this week, they've got real offensive identities. Do you know what yours is yet, or what would you like yours to be?
I mean, I think we've done a good job. Again, I think when you go back, this last week, I'm not saying it was 50-50, but we were up until the fourth quarter, it was pretty close run pass, and a lot of those called runs were getting spit out by the quarterback on RPOs, which is part of the game. I just want to be balanced and win the game. Again, if it's 10-7, let's win the game 10-7 versus we score 50 and they score 52. It doesn't matter how many yards or points you score if you don't win. It's never fun. We're still not battling through some things, but dealing through some certain areas where we've got to improve. Again, starting with me and my coaching staff, and finding how can we really help these certain areas where we've gotten beat at times. So I don't know if we've got a full identity, but we're moving the ball well. We got to limit the turnovers. Again, if we can just take care of the ball better, we're going to be in every football game. And we got down 13-0, and next thing you know, we got a chance to go up 23-20 right there in the game. And a lot of teams maybe wouldn't have been able to battle back from that. So I'm proud of our kids' resiliency. We got a tough group of kids, so we just got to keep pushing forward. And the sky's not falling. We still feel good with where we're at, and excited for this unbelievable opportunity against the number 7 team in the country in Stillwater this weekend.
And then finally, for me, can you kind of talk to us about how you construct the game plan and who all's involved in the process of how that goes?
Yeah, my entire offensive staff is involved, daily. Every Monday we'll get together and we talk about the run game package first and foremost, and then we kind of split up in our different ways, and we all kind of come together with some passing stuff that we like. Coach Jones is in his office right now looking at third downs. Him and I are going to meet on that here shortly. But it's a group effort. At the end of the day, I probably put in more by myself than everybody else does solo by them, but it's a group effort, and we sit down and we talk through everything, and we sit down more than anything and say, hey, what concepts do we like against, in the passing game, what concepts do we like against what coverages they show, and hey, these are kind of the run plays that we want to put in. Now, how do we scheme them up formation-wise, motion-wise, things like that moving forward?
Anything else for Coach Kitley before we let him go?
Appreciate it.